Today we've got Jeff Zamarin with us, who is a military officer and naval engineer with the U.S. Coast Guard. And I've never met anybody who was involved with the Coast Guard, but I've seen their boats all the time and their helicopters. Every time we go to the beach, the helicopter kind of goes back and forth patrolling. I'm a huge fan. They do some really important lifeguarding and beyond. But like I said, I've always kind of felt like the U.S. Coast Guard was one of the few institutions in the government that I felt like I, with no reservation, was like, oh, I love it. I love what they do. Give them every dollar they ask for. So, and Jeff matches up with my, preconceived ideas of what these guys are like, professional and just cool. Now, maybe I should have put this already, but as an active Coast Guard officer, all of the views that Jeff espouses in this interview are his and not to be construed as the views of the Coast Guard. So understand that. And also understand that a lot of this conversation might be the most useful for someone thinking about career, because I can't help it. That's the part of the Coast Guard that's interesting to me as he's been in it 20 years now, or 18. And I learned later in the interview we're probably almost exactly the same age. We both graduated high school the year 2000. He went this route. I went this other kind of bumbling and weird route that's landed me here doing this podcast and Essential Craftsman, which is great. I don't want to insult what I'm doing. It's just very different from the career that Jeff has gone down, and he's seen some neat stuff. He, as a naval engineer, we're talking about ships and how they're run and operated and maintained and everything that goes into those. We're talking about just the general operations of these vessels at sea, what the Coast Guard is doing. I mentioned, search and rescue type of operations because that's what I see these helicopters doing, but they do a lot of other things, and he covers that. And like I said, a lot of it I think would be the most helpful for someone thinking about career, maybe someone who identifies the military as like a good route. And if so, you're going to get some good information about what the Coast Guard aspect or the Coast Guard department of our military offers. So with no further ado, here's Jeff. He's a member of the Essential Craftsman Academy. He spoke up in one of our shop talks. No, he didn't even speak up. He just made a comment about engineering and project management and some of the things he was doing that was so interesting because it came from this perspective of ocean going vessels and someone in the Coast Guard. And so I asked him a few questions but I sent him an email afterwards like, oh man, Jeff, I'd really like to hear more about this. And I'm glad I did. Great guy. With no further ado, Jeff Zamarin, a naval engineer, a military officer of the U.S. Coast Guard. Let's do it. First off, thank you for taking time out of your day and joining us and kind of sitting down like this. You said this is your first time. You've listened to a lot of podcasts, but this is your first time doing one. Is that right?
Yeah, first time participating. What's a long time listener, first time caller kind of thing. So looking forward to being here and talking about the Coast Guard and naval engineering, project management, shipboard engineering, and kind of life at sea and operations and stuff in the Coast Guard. So yeah, glad to be here, Nate. Thanks.
Well, first off, I want to hear how you got into it with the Coast Guard, and I'll give you a background. I'm from Oregon, so every time we're at the coast, I see the Coast Guard vessels and the boats, and I always just really appreciated that it's like lifeguards. I always really appreciated that first and foremost. And secondly, I always, even as a young kid, I was really pragmatic and understood, like, making good decisions. And the military always made a ton of sense to me in terms of like, here's a good career and training and so many reasons. But I just never could get over the fact that I might have to like attack somebody in some other country that I didn't know, or like, get shot at myself. And that was another reason why, as a pretty small kid, I thought, the Coast Guard, that is the place for me. I didn't go that route, but I'm a fan. What happened for you that kind of led you to the Coast Guard? I'm sure it's, maybe it wasn't something from a young age, but how is it that you ended up with the Coast Guard?
Yeah, no, it's, I mean, it's kind of an interesting story. I grew up in Utah, Park City, Utah area. My dad was a pilot with Delta for many years, since retired. And always just kind of had an interest in, the military. I love, planes and boats and the typical stuff that probably any, boy or person growing up would. And had a fascination for, but was, in Utah, not very exposed to that stuff, and wanted to join a military service academy when I was in high school, probably my sophomore junior year. The idea started sort of to germinate in my mind a bit, and started researching it a bit more. And my SAT and ACT scores were not the best. I'll be honest with you; they were pretty poor. So I didn't necessarily compete very well for some of the service academies. But then a recruiter came in, and basically Captain Bob Beard, I think his name was, and mentioned the Merchant Marine Academy to me, which is one of the 5 federal service academies out of Kings Point, New York. And their mission was basically to
Huh.
train merchant marine officers for wartime. So they were started in World War II era, and basically it was a logistical problem to say, look, we need people to crew these ships to send supplies and goods and services and stuff, from America across the ocean to Europe, to support our troops that are fighting overseas. So we developed a school that the Maritime Administration Department of Transportation developed a school to train these officers and folks to crew the ship. So I got turned on to the Merchant Marine Academy out of Kings Point, and they're a phenomenal education school. But the cool thing about the Merchant Marine Academy versus some of the other service academies is I could literally go into any branch of the service I wanted to upon graduation. So I was like, not knowing 100% what I wanted to do,
Oh.
I like the flexibility of knowing that, hey, I have some more time to kind of figure out what I'm doing while still getting a paid for education by the government, getting some real great on hands experience and training. Part of the curriculum is a 1 full year out at sea working on an actual merchant ship as a cadet in the engine room, and doing, working hands on one with the crewed and licensed engineers. And then upon graduation, you can decide where you want to go. And I didn't know much about the Coast Guard, honestly, going into it. I was kind of more, looking at Navy or Air Force kind of stuff. But the Coast Guard mission really kind of spoke to me a bit. It's very much a bias for action type of organization where, a lot of the other services and stuff, as they should, with a lot of training, a lot of preparation, a lot of preparing for the eventual contingency of, war, humanitarian service, or
Mm.
whatever it is. The Coast Guard is very much a, always in doing the mission, very close to the homeland, so to speak, and on point doing that
Yeah.
stuff from day one. So I like that, and I like being an engineer. At school, I really love sailing on
Yeah.
ships. So that combination
Wow.
led me to the Coast Guard right out of graduation, and I went to my first ship, which is the now decommissioned Coast Guard cutter Acushnet up out of Ketchikan, Alaska, as a student engineer in the Coast Guard, a newly minted ensign, and was an engineer, sort of a division officer, as they call it, on the Coast Guard cutter Acushnet up in Ketchikan,
Huh.
Alaska, and that's how I got into the Coast Guard there. That's kind of it in a nutshell.
Um, one quick question: what this term merchant, like for the academy, and then you said on merchant vessels. What does that refer to? Does that mean like not a battleship, or what is that? What is that referring to? Just like hauling goods and materials or something, or what does that mean? I've heard that
Yeah,
my whole life and never really got it.
no, it's a great. People would say Merchant Marine. Oh, you guys are in the Marines. It's like, no, no, not quite.
Yeah,
Merchant
yeah,
is
that too.
basically that. It's merchant goods, services, not really services, but goods and products. So container ships, oil tankers, bulk ships, which basically carry grain or iron ore or scrap metal and stuff. Car ships, basically any types of goods or products that need to be shipped from point A to point B is covered under the merchant umbrella of ships. So you see ships going up and down the coast of Oregon or on the East Coast here where I am. All that stuff coming from
Hmm.
overseas or wherever is packaged up on a container vessel or oil tanker or whatever it is, and shipped. So that's the
Yes,
merchant stuff. That's the umbrella of what the merchant covers: goods, products, etc.
got it. And then what would this vessel in Alaska? What was the mission, so to speak, of that assignment and that ship that you were on there?
Yeah, so it was a medium endurance cutter. So the Coast Guard calls our ships cutters, dating back to the revenue cutter service in the 1700s when we were first initiated, basically to say Alexander Hamilton said, "Hey, look, we got goods and services coming into our ports as a revenue stream for this new nation of ours. It would be great if maybe we could enforce some of these laws and treaties and some of the revenue basically to ensure that there's fair trade, of the merchants coming in." So the cutter
Hmm.
revenue service was started to kind of to do that, and we, the Coast Guard, the modern Coast Guard, are a amalgamation of that service plus a few other services, the life saving service, and a few others combined together. But that's where the
Mm.
term cutter comes. So we call our ships cutters, and the mission of that, we have 11 statutory missions, everything from, saving lives at sea to law enforcement to port waterway security. But mainly up in Alaska, the big thing that the Coast Guard does up there, that we did up there, was protecting the living marine resource. So basically fish, essentially, and the huge economic impact that has on the nation. I mean, all up through Alaska, the Bering Sea, and whatnot, protecting our national sovereignty to that sort of maritime demarcation line, which is out there about 200 miles outside of the U.S. sort of territorial, the border, the land borders, and we patrol that and make sure that the nations that have rights to fish in those waters are fishing in those proper areas and not depleting the marine resource. So we'll go out there as sort of the water police or the federal on water presence to make
Hmm.
sure folks aren't overfishing, aren't catching the wrong species, protected species like dolphins or sharks or sea turtles or
Hmm.
whatnot, and properly accounting for what they're catching. The actual stuff that they're allowed to catch, whether it's
Hmm.
cod, all that type of stuff. So that's what we did a lot out there. A lot of fishery boardings, making sure they're safe in compliance with maritime law. Safety of life at sea stuff. So everything's good to go, and they're meeting the federal regulations to fish appropriately for that renewable resource with the fish.
Wow, that's really cool. Fishing, more than a lot of other trades, you really can. You're out there, out of sight. In other words, I'm sure there's a lot of well, if no one was patrolling, guys could get away with murder and
Yeah,
taking fish and resources and
yeah,
really kind of, like you said, depleting. So that makes a lot of sense considering. Yeah, I mean, I know fishing's huge just in Alaska, but you said it probably trickles down to the whole country where it would
it's
impact
it's
everybody if that
it's everywhere.
industry
Yeah,
shut down.
it's a huge. I mean, it's a huge just protein source for the
Yeah,
world. So it's a major resource, and it's everywhere. So we provide that, and then of course, obviously, we are an on scene search and rescue asset that can be used if a mariner's in
right.
distress, and can serve as an operating platform, for that to kind of help mariners in distress. And that's kind of the cool thing I liked about the seagoing services as well, as regardless of who you are, where you come from, what you do, and even if you're, blatantly breaking the law or whatever, if you're in distress or a mariner's in distress, we will help you. You will be saved, because that is priority number one. And I kind of that like that
Wow.
that humanity was sort of a neat aspect of the Coast Guard as well. That fundamentally
Oh
at its
man.
core, we're there to help people, save people, and ensure safety of life at sea, and then obviously make sure
Yes.
everybody's playing on a fair field as well.
Yeah, yeah. I can't imagine the feeling of, on the sea and having a situation and especially if you were far from home or maybe from another country, like some long travel and how I can't imagine the impact, having a Coast Guard vessel pull up would have on a vessel in distress. Or is that I don't really understand how international waters and all that work. Is that area up there like only U.S. fishermen can fish that, or anybody can come in there as long as they follow have a fishing license, so to speak? Or how does that work? What you said within 200 miles or whatever of the shore.
Yes. So it depends on what you're doing. Like if you and I were to go out as just regular recreational fishing folks, even that far out, like sure, like it's fine because we're not fishing from a commercial perspective. But from a
Uh huh.
commercial like industry perspective, the folks that are actually catching like I mean massive amounts of fish, yeah, there are sovereign boundaries there that regulate Russia, China, et cetera, fish on this side of the waters. These are your sort of economic
Huh.
zones. They call them economic exclusion zones, EEZs. And then there are certain areas that are
Huh.
United States economic exclusion zones, and those are intended to manage. Each country has different priorities on how to manage that resource, and each country has come to international agreements and stuff that says, hey, we can fish here and we manage our resources accordingly, and you guys can fish over here and you manage your resources how you see fit. The fish obviously don't know the boundaries. They don't care. They're going to wherever the
Right.
food is and the life is. But the idea is through
Yeah.
managing that ecosystem appropriately and managing it correctly, you will be able to sustain it just as you would a forest or anything else that you want to have
Yeah.
keep producing on and on and on.
So let's talk about well, I guess first of all, last thing on the Coast Guard, you got there by going through this academy, which is a, education, like it's like college more or less, from what I
Mhm.
understand. But also people can just sign up, like let's say someone's 17 and finishing high school and they don't know what to do. You can also just kind of sign up like basic training, like a new recruit type of and make a career out of it. Is that right? Or does everybody kind of go through this academy the way you did first?
No, no, that's the beautiful thing is there's many ways to come in. So I went through the academy, which you're right is it's a 4-year college. I get a bachelor's of science degree out of it, and same thing if you were to go to the Coast Guard Academy or Naval Academy or whatever. Those are all your degree path,
Mhm.
and that's a path towards being an officer in the Coast Guard. So that's the path I chose. But there's also, the non-commissioned officer path or the enlisted path that you'd say. And yeah, right out of high school or not even out of high school, a lot of folks coming in they have master's degrees and bachelor's degrees and they're licensed,
Mm.
nurses or whatever, all kinds of stuff. And they decide to come in because they want to serve. And then you'll come in, you'll go to, boot camp. You'll come in as a E1, which is, the lowest kind of rank there. And then you'll work your way up. And it's very much geared towards providing you a specialty too. So once you're in and you kind of do sort of like an internship period or an indoctrination period for a few years, you will then determine what path you want to go down as an enlisted member of the service. And we have specialties all over the place from engineering. We have machinery technicians, electricians, electronics techs, operational specialists, which
Mm.
do a lot of radio type stuff. We have bosun's mates who do deck type work on vessels, and we'll host those whole host of others, including aviation, flight mechanics, aviation
Mm.
survival trainers, swimmers, marine science technicians, which inspect merchant ships in dry dock and ensure that they're being done correctly. So all that schooling and stuff will be provided by the Coast Guard to you, and you can have a full career doing that path. And then also the cool thing is that's a very fruitful and solid career path to go all the way up to the highest ranks on the enlisted side. But for those folks that choose that path, there is also opportunities for them to branch into the officer field at some point in their career if they want to as well, and become what they call warrant officers. And then there's also a path to become a warrant officer to a fully commissioned officer also. So there's many opportunities to come in. Some folks too will even come into the Coast Guard. We call them direct commission officers, where maybe say they have a degree in say electrical engineering or they have a degree in some kind of trade, and the Coast Guard will say, you know what, we want that talent in our service. You've already done the schooling, you've already done the certifications, you've already done the trades. We will direct commission you into the Coast Guard to do specific jobs, and then that's another path to come in. You can kind of leapfrog a
Wow.
little bit
Yeah.
above and come in. That's actually how I technically came in from the Merchant Marine Academy. As I said, hey, we like the schooling, we like what you guys got. We will direct commission you into the Coast Guard, even though you didn't come through, say, the Coast Guard Academy or something. So there's a lot of different ways to come in.
Can you describe the different types of engineering that are happening in the Coast Guard? And I know there's probably a lot, but things like, ship or vessel engineering is something that the common person doesn't hear or think much about. So, what are some of these aspects of engineering, and which ones are you involved with, and especially like with the ships? I'd really be interested in what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was lucky enough to be the chief engineer on the Coast Guard cutter Berthoff a few years back. So that's one of our newest national security cutters. And so I'll speak, within my domain that I'm most comfortable with. So in the engineering rates, naval engineering rates for the Coast Guard, we have three primary rates there. Machinery technicians. So those are folks that are really, like mechanics, essentially working on
Hmm.
engines and stuff. And those are kind of split into two different paths within that rate: auxiliary machinery technicians, and then main propulsion machinery technicians. And this is specific to shipboard engineering division. So the main propulsion machinery technicians are, as the name implies, dealing with the big diesel engines, gas turbines, et cetera, that actually propel the ship, turn the propellers, turn the screws, make us go forward. And then the auxiliary
Hmm.
machinery technicians deal with all the auxiliary systems, air conditioning systems, fuel oil purifiers, water pumps, reverse osmosis systems for making potable
Hmm.
water, and all the stuff in between. So all those auxiliary, what we call like hotel services, to support
Hmm.
support the ship. Then we have electricians. We call them electricians mates, and it's, as the name implies, anything electrical. And I tell you, Nate, these days, I mean, with modern technology and ships, there's nothing on these modern cutters and boats that is not
Yeah.
electrical. I mean, everything is, and
Yeah.
we, anything we would touch was electrical in nature. So they have I relied on those folks tremendously. They were a huge part of doing anything on the ship, and a very skilled trade as well, as it kind of is in, the kind of commercial trades for residential and commercial stuff too on land. And then last is damage control technicians, and they're kind of like I call them like a Swiss Army knife of everything else in the engineering bucket. So they do everything from dealing with wastewater treatment stuff to welding, brazing, repairs, and then most importantly on a ship is all the shipboard damage control. So the firefighting response, flooding response if there's
Oh.
damage, patching and plugging, and making sure the ship is ready to fight, and also handle
Uh-huh.
any damage that happens if we're underway. Anything from running aground, or actually being attacked or something. They're the ones that are in charge of that. Um, and then
Oh,
on
wow.
land, those damage control technicians also do a lot of facilities and civil type stuff. Anything from, framing houses, drywall repair, construction, sewage, wastewater, like I said, roof replacements, and anything in between from a shoreside civil perspective. So damage control men
Wow.
really do, I mean, a ton of stuff. It's kind of like I said, the Swiss Army knife, the basket of
Yeah.
everything that's left over that's not specifically electrical in nature, or mechanical or machinery in nature. And that sort of rounds out the enlisted trades. And then, of course, you have the officers on the ship. Myself as a chief engineer in charge of the entire engineering department, which on the national security cutter is, I think, a little bit over 30 or so folks. And then you have a couple officers beneath you that are division officers. You have a very seasoned a main propulsion assistant. It's usually a warrant officer that's in charge of all the propulsion stuff. And then you have chief petty officers and stuff that are in charge of the different divisions, and some junior officers that are also in charge of the divisions. And they help manage things like, fueling evolutions and whatnot. And then obviously just the leadership of those different departments on the ship.
I'm having a breakthrough here in my thinking about this word engineer because for whatever reason, I hear that word and I think of a computer and calculating like span ratings and drainage flows and like soil compaction in CAD or something. That's just like where my mind goes. But everything you just described is extremely skilled trade skills and
Right.
knowledge application and hands-on repairs and uh, probably assembly and just everything. You didn't even mention computers once in terms of like being at a desk, but I don't know what happened to me where I have that term engineer associated with desk work, but that all sounds really fun and interesting. And working on a boat, like you said, whether it's the plumbing or the electrical or whatever, I'm sure there's some pretty neat welding and riveting and stuff. Is probably your engineers, in other words, who are trained and who are making all that happen. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I like to think of it. There's definitely technical engineers, and those are your licensed professional engineers, and those folks that are doing like you
Uh-huh.
said, the dry dock calculations, the span calculations, all that soil compaction and stuff. And that is engineering is a very broad umbrella. You have project management engineers, you have all
Yeah.
kinds of, and then what I do on ships or did on ships is very much, practical operational engineering type stuff. So we are, running the
Yeah.
plant. I personally work on computers a lot and manage stuff because I'm, an officer and in charge of the department. But,
Yeah.
the folks that are working for me are tearing down engines, doing valve lashes, replacing cylinder heads, rocker arms, oil changes, repairing gas turbines,
Wow.
doing water washdowns, fuel oil cleaning, making water, helping out with preservation, exterior preservation, and the science and technology that goes into just painting something, especially in a marine field, is very much an engineering kind of deal. Weld repairs, structure of the ship, the architecture of the ship, the design of the ship, all that stuff falls into the umbrella of naval engineering. Commercially, as far as like the American Society of Naval Engineering sort of definition of it, and then also as the Coast Guard treats it, and even the Navy, treats it in terms of what does a naval engineer encompass. It's all that stuff to operate,
Wow.
maintain, run, and execute the mission of the ship or the cutter for our sake, and make sure the propellers are turning, the lights stay on, and the cold stuff
Yeah.
stays cold and the hot stuff stays hot. So
Um, Talk about the overlap. When I think about anything to do with one of these vessels, I feel like I, would be lucky to find the, the engine at all, let alone figure anything out. But I'm sure there's actually quite a bit of overlap between the work, let's say like a welder, a fabricator, or even a commercial or residential electrician, and the way they understand the materials and the processes, that it might actually fit fairly well. And you even described some people enter the Coast Guard with maybe a skill or trade already like locked up, and they just apply it there. So is a lot of the work on these ships stuff that the common man would recognize in terms of how they're wired and plumbed, and how the hydraulics work, or is there a lot of technology that is kind of only in boats that you don't really see anywhere else?
yeah, yes to both. So I would say, generally speaking, absolutely. Like, electrical stuff is, I mean, there are certain nuances of marine shipboard electrical stuff. A lot of it's, of different voltage. Most of it's all, like, three-phase AC, 440 volt. There's not a lot of
Oh
220
wow.
typically. So there's
Jeez.
some nuances and differences there. But generally
Huh.
speaking, yeah, it's all the same stuff. It's all, you have power coming from the generator into a switchboard, into breaker panels, and then it goes out to everything else. Um,
Yeah.
I would say the biggest thing probably for shipboard and marine engineering stuff is the hardening of systems and the shielding of systems is really important because there's so much stuff. I mean, Nate, miles and miles and miles of cabling and wiring and piping and everything packed into a very, very small space. So the design
Huh.
of those systems, the engineering of those systems, to use that term kind of broadly, is different, than say building a house or a high-rise building or something like
Yeah.
that. But the core functionality of those systems are still the same. Your critical building systems or critical sort of systems that maintain that building, HVAC, plumbing, sewer, supply water, electrical, structure, etc. They're all essentially the same, just different nuances. Obviously, we're not stick framing a boat, we're welding and stuff, but the
Mm-hmm.
longitudinal supports, the transverse framings, the girders, the bulkheads, piers, posts, decks, etc. They all follow general similar guidelines and principles of statics and dynamics, and how to structure things to work. There is stability and buoyancy that you have to consider, obviously, in a marine environment. So that adds a dynamic. Everything's moving on a ship. So
Yeah.
understanding, righting arms, center of gravity, center of buoyancy, righting moments, etc., all goes into calculation that aren't necessarily as prevalent in, say, a civil domain because everything's
Uh-huh.
static. You're building a building, it's static, except for maybe some earthquake loading or wind loading and stuff here and there. But on a ship, you're constantly moving. So that center of gravity and stuff is always shifting and changing. So that plays a big part in the design of the ship. It also plays a big part into where you place equipment. so you have it balanced correctly. You don't want everything on one side and vice versa.
Oh,
Otherwise, you'll
right.
you'll have some issues. So everything needs to be balanced. It needs to be segregated correctly. So if you have damage to one compartment, it doesn't impact the survivability of the ship in, say, another compartment. So we will separate
Oh,
main propulsion engines. So on the National Security Cutter, for example, our engines are separated into different compartments. Generators are separated into different compartments. So that way, if one thing fails, it doesn't take out the ship, right? You can still
oh,
operate the
got
boat.
it. Yeah,
So those things are
yeah,
different. The nuances of, I think, the design specific to the application are different. But generally speaking, electricity is electricity, hydraulics are hydraulics,
yeah.
treating fuel is the same, all that type of stuff. Yeah.
That last boat you were on, or maybe you can pick a boat you were on, but um, can you describe in terms of like ship operations? Let's say like that the last boat you're on, or maybe one of the bigger ones. There's a lot of people who all have their own job to do, and from my point of view, or a layperson, you just kind of think like, well, the boat's got a captain, and the captain's in charge, and then the first mate, and da da da. But I'm sure there's maybe you tell me like what does the captain actually, he probably is not an engineer. In other words, you would probably have a much better idea of what the ship is going through and needing. So maybe just talk about that, some of these key roles in what keeps a ship operational, even in terms of on the land, like when a ship is out, does that ship have like a, I don't know, I know like airplanes have a flight crew that's like assigned to that plane, sort of. Is that kind of how boats like this work also, or does it depend on the scale? But talk about ship operations a little bit and how that all works.
Yeah, that's a great question. They do. I'll try to maybe correlated to like even like just being like a general contractor on a project, so you have, so there's
Yes.
definitely so on the shore side, like when a ship's in port or say in a dry dock, which I worked in quite a bit repairing ships, you definitely have a team of engineers that manage and execute that maintenance. And in the Coast Guard and even in the commercial field, they have um, what they call port engineers, and project managers and stuff like that. That's what they do. They design the work lists and the projects and stuff that are going to be executed on the boat. So let's say you have to paint a certain area of the ship, or something needs to be fixed, or something's corroding. You have to sandblast it and preserve it, or maybe one of the radars is broken or whatever. All that stuff gets pushed into and sort of written down on a list, because you can't just stop the ship. You're running it, and there's a lot of redundancy. That's another thing I mentioned too. There's a lot of redundancy in ship systems. In a house, you'll have one air conditioning unit, right? On a ship
Yeah.
like the Berthoff we were on, we had three main air conditioning units and a bunch of other
Huh.
smaller ones. So there's a lot of redundancy.
Oh.
We have multiple modes of
Huh.
propulsion, multiple generators, et cetera. Because if you're out thousands of miles away from home and something fails, you got to keep the ship running. But you still need to fix that stuff. So it all goes on a list and it's managed. And then when you get into port, your port engineer, your project managers, your what we call the depot repair availability, or depot repair program rather, will collect all that stuff up, execute contracts, hire folks to come on board, order parts, equipment, etc., and fix all that stuff while you're in port. So that's kind of the shoreside piece. And part of that also is taking the ship to dry dock on a recurring basis, take it out of the water, clean the underside, preserve it, fix the propellers, all that running gear stuff that
Mm-hmm.
you have to do while the boat's out of the water. That's one side. Then out at sea underway, absolutely. There's a captain who's absolutely in charge, and that's kind of the cool thing out at sea, is that position has absolute authority, control, responsibility, and duty to serve the interest of the ship's mission, its crew, and make sure everything's safe and operating correctly. And that authority is absolute, and it's kind of a neat deal. It's really, aspiring towards command and being in command is a neat thing. And then underneath that, you have your support staff. You have your executive officer, which is sort of like your deputy second in charge to keep running the day-to-day operations. And then you have your technical experts, myself, chief engineer. You have an operations officer. You'll have which is in charge of where the boat's going, what they're doing, that type of stuff. You'll
Mm-hmm.
have a supply officer, which is in charge of ordering all the materials, equipment, food, etc. You'll have a systems operations officer or a combat systems operation officer, more specific to like military type vessels for the combat systems type stuff, law enforcement elements, etc. On merchant ships, you don't so much have that. Merchant ships are a little bit more simple. it's captain, then you
Mm-hmm.
have your engineering department, and then your deck department.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, the deck department drives the boat, runs the ship, handles the anchoring and maneuvering, mooring, all that type of stuff, and the engineers, keep the shafts running and the lights on, so to speak. So that's kind of how that's
Okay,
broken
that's a
out.
yeah, that breaks it up. That makes sense.
Yeah, kind of
Huh.
like if you're building a house, if you're a general contractor, you have a framer, an electrician, a cement guy, an excavator, that type of thing. All
Mm-hmm.
those folks have different jobs that they do. They all report up to the GC to get the job done. All of us report, directly up to the captain to get the job done on the ship. But we all have our unique positions and jobs that integrate with each other to get everything accomplished and the boat sailing safely. People are taken care of, they're fed, and they're doing what they need to do.
Yeah. I've always felt as I've become an adult, and thought more about career and all that, almost jealous of people and certainly military instances where there is a cut and dried mission. And I know maybe not every single mission is as cut and dry if it's just patrol these waters, but having a team like on a vessel say we got to go find whatever this damaged ship, and oh my gosh, how cool to have just like this cut and dried mission, and especially compared to the other branches of the military. And you mentioned this when we started, how the Coast Guard is learning and preparing and then executing the very missions they prepared for, as opposed to probably certain wings of the Navy that hopefully never have to execute a single mission ever for like centuries ideally. Very cool that the Coast Guard not only has such cut and dry missions but gets to implement them regularly. There's got to be a level of, I don't know, satisfaction to sort of having those jobs to go after.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm obviously a little bit biased because I've done my whole career in the Coast Guard, so I love it, and it's been
Hmm.
great to me. But that was one of the things that really drew me to it. I mean, you absolutely right. Like our other brothers and sisters and stuff in the other services, 100% needed and necessary for the nation. But you're right. We train and outfit and give those folks the tools and the resources they need to do their job in the hopes that we never ever have to use them, because that's the idea. But
Yeah.
that's what I liked about the Coast Guard is that we train and get all the resources and tools we need to do what we got to do. We have a mission, a job, and we go out there and do it every day. We're saving lives every day. Every day there's somebody, unfortunately that needs our help, either drowning in the water or a rescue out at sea. Enforcing
Hmm.
fisheries as a living marine resource, protecting the ports to ensure safety of commerce and whatnot in our nation's ports. It's a day to day mission that we're doing every day and executing, and it's great. I love it. And that was something that drew me to it. This is our mission. This is what we're doing. Here are the tools to go
Yeah.
do it, and it has a direct impact to the nation, which is pretty neat.
In terms of career, Coast Guard is not the first like branch of the military I think of. You when you think of military, you think of, I don't know, like the Navy SEALs or SEAL Team 6. And in like the civilian world, the most celebrity aspects of whatever field are making the most money because they're the top of that perspective, um, you know, organization, at least optically. So my question is, in working for the Coast Guard, is it, or really any arm of the service, is it all more or less like you're in the services, the retirement planning and package and the healthcare and all of it is kind of like the same, you know, ball of wax that you're involved with, or are there reasons to that some person would go to the Navy, just career wise and how much you make, or is it related to risk, or how does that work with the Coast Guard? I'm wondering why more people don't sign up for the Coast Guard. It sounds more fun. Are there downsides? Do you get like less career options or something, or can you speak to that if someone's kicking this around?
Yeah, I mean, so we're considered a military service, so we're under the Department of Homeland Security, but we fall under the Department of Defense in certain specific things. We operate under, not to bore with details, but Title 10 and Title 14 of the U.S. Code, so it kind of gives us broad authority to do a lot of things. There's a lot of flexibility in the Coast Guard. We are a small service. I mean, we definitely have a smaller, position in the overall Department of Defense and National Defense pie. But we all get paid the same. It's public knowledge. You can go out there and just Google search, military pay or whatever, and the pay charts are up there for anybody to look at.
Oh, I didn't know
Um,
that. Cool.
yeah, so you can see there are certain incentives, out there. So like if you say are a pilot or, doing something that's dangerous or going out to sea or whatever, there are incentives that the Coast Guard or the military branches, and this is true for all the branches, will pay you extra
Yeah.
to incentivize you to go, do X, Y, and Z. I'll say
Makes
from my
sense.
experience, it's a combination of two things. One, I certainly like the security and the support that working for the government provided. I have been incredibly blessed for the opportunities that it's given me, both personally and professionally. I mean, I've received a ton of licenses, project management professional, DHS level project management licenses,
Mhm.
um, licensed merchant mariner certificates and stuff, um, and on in terms of engineering and whatnot that were provided to me, master's levels degrees in engineering and all that type of stuff provided for me directly from the Coast Guard. So and in
Wow.
exchange for my service back to the nation. So the opportunities are tremendous. And on the enlisted side, whether you serve for, 4 years in one contract or 20 plus years, you're earning a tangible skill. You're going to become a rated something in
Yeah.
whatever it is you want to do. And that is great, whether you stay in the service and keep doing good stuff, or you get out and do great stuff for your family and the nation or whatever, and then be an ambassador for the Coast
Yeah.
Guard, for everybody else that you're working with. So for me, it was obviously stability and a good paycheck right out of college. I had a job that was paying me a decent salary, no debt because I went to
Yeah.
a military academy. But I like the idea of serving and giving back. For me, it was never always about 100% the money. Of course, you need money to live, but
Yeah.
I always learned, or somebody told me once, you need to pay people just enough so they're not really necessarily thinking about it or worrying about it. And then after that, how do you
Yeah.
motivate folks? And it's give them a job that matters, give them something that they actually can get behind, work with great people so that they
Yep.
empower and inspiring, and that is worth more than you could pay me. I would take this job hands down, working with folks that I love to work with, providing a benefit to the nation, doing all this great stuff for a good salary. I mean, you can look it up. It's a very livable paycheck, but I would take that over getting paid 2, 3 times as much and being miserable working in some corporate
Yeah.
whatever grind and not getting to do what I
Yep.
do. There's more than just money. So that's what I liked about the military, the service is you're doing something bigger than just you.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And there's a certain point with any paycheck where it's like when your needs are met, it's like that's great, but there's just other it's kind of what you're describing. There's other aspects to career and having a fulfilled life. Like
Hmm.
family would be one big category
Yeah,
that you kind of
certainly.
need. Money would be one of those, family would be one of those, but there's certainly other ones besides that also, and I could imagine that feeling of I don't know, contributing and like you said, giving back and performing valuable services. I can't imagine the feeling and this is maybe only a small part of the Coast Guard, but over when we go to the coast, I see the helicopters kind of
Yep,
patrolling up and down, and I see it in the paper from time to time. They are rescuing
yep.
fishermen whose boats break, and I can't imagine the feeling that would come with helping people in that kind of a way. And that's just in Coos. That's just right here up and down Southern Oregon, and so there's probably just
Yeah.
a lot of value that those those guys are
There's a
enjoying.
that's a pretty decent air station out there. I think North Bend, Coos Bay, Oregon, there, and
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. And there's so many opportunities. I mean, there's even in the Coast Guard, we're kind of cool. We have a very active and good reservist branch, fully volunteer, right? Really, the reservists they get paid on drill weekends, but man, these are folks that are working
huh.
regular jobs 9 to 5 during the week or whatever they're doing, coming in on the weekends and doing their stuff. I mean the dedication and the value that the reserves provide is just, I mean, I'm always in awe of them. It's like, you guys are true servants to the nation because they're not only doing their civilian job, but also then
Yeah,
coming in on their off time and giving back. And then we also have a
huh.
huge auxiliary contingent that is truly 100% a volunteer workforce to augment the Coast Guard. And they do a lot of lake operations for us, and safety boardings and things. And it's like a big family at the Coast Guard, a very kind of
Yeah.
team spirit, which is sort of a neat thing. But you're right, down at Coos Bay, Oregon, and North Bend there and stuff. I mean, they're out there flying around and saving people every single day. They're doing their job, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you see their boats from time to time. My father-in-law was he was fishing on the Columbia River, and my brother-in-law actually they had boats, so they were kind of out there, and I would see the Coast Guard boats from time to time, and they're just it's like all military equipment. Like when you're up next to it and see it, it's like, whoa, this is really cool. Those boats are
Yeah.
amazing, and I can't I don't know what class or which cutter it was, but it's something else than like the civilian equipment, and the just really beautiful stuff, which actually leads me to my next question, and this will be a two-parter. But number one, do you have a boat? Are you like boating on the weekends, or you kind of have your fill, or is it nothing even holds a candle after being a part of these? Number one. And number two, what are you working on like day to day, like with your job now? You're not on a boat right now this second. What are you working on regularly, and what is the career like for you at this moment?
No, thanks. Yeah, I don't own a boat. I've heard, I one, I can't afford it. They're just super expensive. But what
Yeah.
do they say that the day you buy it and the day you sell it are like the two best days when you buy a boat for your
Yeah.
own use or something like that. But
Yep.
no, I'll if I go out with the family or whatever, we'll just rent a boat to go fishing, or help a friend out or whatever, and kind of go out as a group or whatever. Um, so no, I don't own a boat, but I love the water. I mean, when I was up in Alaska on Acushnet up there, I mean, that's just some of the most beautiful country I think that
Mm.
there is out there. It's just amazing. So I really enjoy being on the water and fishing and just exploring different things and stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah, right now, no, as you can see, I'm in an office building here. I work for a Coast Guard sector right now, so it's specifically Sector Virginia here in Portsmouth, Virginia. So that's one thing that's kind of cool about the military services as well, is you're not always stagnant in one job. You move around a lot. Every 3 or 4 years, you're changing jobs, which helps keep things fresh. Helps you moving up in the organization, getting a lot of good opportunities to see different things, gain different qualifications, experiences, etc. So right now, I am the logistics officer for Sector Virginia. So I do everything in terms of kind of like a lot of human resource stuff for Sector Virginia, including engineering, administrative type work, military
Mm.
justice, and disciplinary matters for folks that maybe get a little off track, with where they're supposed to be, and then also a lot of
Mm.
family advocacy stuff and helping folks out that are in trouble or need. So it's very much it's outside of my comfort zone. It's outside of my normal sort of what I'm trained to do in the Coast Guard. But the Coast Guard
Wow.
likes to do that, and military services in general like to do that. They try to what they call broaden your experience, especially as you get more senior up in the ranks. Like
Wow.
I'm a Commander '05 now, and to get more broad experience, to gain better perspective on what's going on at the enterprise level in the organization, they like to have you go into positions that sort of maybe expose you to things that are not your bread and butter day to day, working in a dry dock, fixing boats, project management type stuff. They try to get you into different
Wow.
things so you can learn that. So that's what I'm doing now, the logistics officer for
Wow.
Central Virginia.
What's the family advocacy aspect? Is that like for other service members who are just having, family needs, you're kind of assisting in that way, or is that something else?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I mean, one of the great things about the military services and stuff too is there are so many resources for those that are in need. We recognize that this is a challenging job. It's a rewarding job, but it's challenging, and that challenge can sometimes go, to the families and stuff. So there's a lot of support services out there for folks, whether it be
Huh.
budget planning, finance type stuff, stuff, resources for your children, counseling sessions, or whatever. So we help get people lined up with those resources as they need them to ensure that they have the tools to be a ready workforce, so to speak, and ready to go. Because in order for you to do your job here in the office or out at sea or doing whatever you're doing, your mind's got to be right,
Yeah.
stuff's got to be straight, and we want to make sure that that's good to go on the home front as well. So there's a ton of really phenomenal professionals that provide those resources, and we and my job kind of help act as the conduit for that, for the 600 or 700 or so folks that we have working for us here, if they need those services.
Wow. And that is just this is really interesting. And if you haven't been involved with the military or even working for the government in some way, like my career, I just have no context. It's like all of these things you're describing, like even you said every few years they put you somewhere to learn something new. Um, Myself and a lot of people in their career feel that same need where they want to like do something new. They're kind of ready, like I can't do this one more day. It'd be nice. Not I've been fortunate to be able to kind of transition my career from time to time, but I know there's some guys out there. I've met several who've been setting toilets for 17 years, and they're going to set a toilet like every day for the next 17 years. And pretty neat. Or like the family needs, like you said, helping families and understand budgeting and all these things, that's really important in on the civilian level as well, except there's not as many resources or good advice at least being handed to people, unless they go looking for it. I guess there's
Yeah,
good
I mean,
resources, but
it's like I mean, I'll admit I joined. I mean, I graduated high school in I think 2000, graduated Kings Point in 2004. So I've been in just around 18 years now. And yeah,
wow.
my initial obligation to the government was a 5 year deal. Actually, it was less than that. It was a 3 year thing because of how I came in. And I admit I was like, yeah, I'll do this for a few years or whatever. And then right in that time frame, 2007, 2008, the economy took a big dive. We all know what
Right.
happened then. So I was like, well, maybe this wasn't be so great. I was, just met my wife, and talking about having kids and stuff. So it was like, hey, maybe this is a good deal. And you know you move around a lot. There's a lot of the government asks from you to be an equal participant, show up and do your job. But boy, they give you a ton of stuff too. I mean, you always have a job, health care, all these resources that are provided. It's like, you know what, this is actually a pretty good deal. A lot of opportunity for upward mobility. If you perform and do your
Yeah.
job and stuff. A lot of certifications, a lot of great education opportunities. Um, so anybody that's thinking about it or doesn't know, quite what to do, like I'm graduating high school, I knew I wanted to serve, but um, you know, not knowing what you want to do, man, it's kind of a neat thing, and you don't have to serve forever. You can serve just for a little bit, get a skill, kind of figure things out, and then go out and do some great stuff. But man, they give you a lot of great resources to be prepared to do your job. And and I've just
Yeah.
loved engineering, and I've been able to travel the world from Bahrain to Guam to everywhere in between, and the Middle East and stuff, doing shipboard repair, and met people that had experiences in dry docks, seen stuff, done things that I would never have done if I would just stayed in Utah,
Wow.
or done locally, and you're just never going to get that experience really anywhere else except for usually joining some kind of service organization, whether it's the Peace Corps, NOAA,
Yes.
military, whatever it is. The opportunities are
Yeah,
really,
some
really great.
organization.
Yeah.
So, are you able to walk on more or less any like ship or vessel and kind of understand it right away? I went on there used to be this submarine in Portland. I think it was called the
Mm,
Bluebill, and you could like tour it. I know a submarine's a different thing, but still, it was pretty old, and it's just wild in there. Just like pipes and valves in every nook and cranny, and I'm sure every
yeah.
submarine's different. And I know boats are like that a little bit too, where when you walk in them, you just kind of you don't get it. I'm sure the ones you were on, you kind of could work them with your eyes closed. But do you have like a? Can you kind of step onto any vessel and more or less like understand it? Are they all kind of built off the same like with the same language and the same
Mhm.
I don't know basic fundamentals, or are there like some vessels that I don't know the Germans make that are totally different in their like foundational engineering than what we do?
Uh, I would say, generally speaking, yes, they're all built to the same general, like, naval architecture and marine engineering type standards. I would say there are different types of vessels out there. There's trimarans, and stuff. There's single hull, monohull vessels. There's obviously sailing ships and all kinds of different stuff. But they all fundamentally have to satisfy the requirements of ship structure, stability, and all that type of stuff. And So that's that fundamentally is the same regardless of what vessel. And yeah, I could. It's like old hat for me because I've been doing it my whole life. Just like I'm sure if your dad were to go on a construction site and see roof rafters and stuff, it's just like second language. But it can be a little intimidating and overwhelming at times, especially. I always found going on ships just how compartmentalized they can be. You'll be going down a path and it's like, where is this going? I have no idea where I am. Am I pointed forward
Yeah.
or aft or what's left, what's right, what's port, what's starboard? Um, but yeah, they all have to be stable, be structured in the same way, and they all have a bow, they all have a stern. Now there's different
Yeah.
design criteria that you'll use based off of what the ship is doing or what it's supposed to be doing. Um, with regards to like, is it a military combatant? Is it a merchant ship? Is it hauling? Is it a supply vessel? Is it a first
Hmm.
fishing ship? Whatever. Those will drive different design elements. What kind of propulsion do you need? Do I need to go fast, or do I need to go slow for a long period of time? Or things like
Yeah.
that will determine kind of what you do.
Jeff, this has been just really interesting and cool. And we're actually the same age. I graduated high school the year 2000 as well. And so this is really
Okay.
neat for me to just kind of, it's like a window into like another path I feel like I could have and might have taken it had I don't know, it had I had things gone a different way. And that's really neat. And I hope there's people listening, maybe younger who, or maybe not even super young. Like you said, you can enter it later in life, but it just really sounds like there's just more to it than you think, that you kind of can boil the military service down to this simple idea, but that's not at all what this is sounding like from, my point of view here.
Yeah, there's opportunities abound, and I would say I'm blessed. I'm fortunate. I mean, when I was accepted to the Merchant Marine Academy, I was barely made it on the last alternate list, in the May time
Yeah.
frame, and I was going to be going to the University of Utah and studying, who knows what, and
Yeah.
who knows where my life would have led. But it's just these different forks in the road that kind of take you in different directions are kind of neat to think about. And I just think,
Yeah,
overall,
definitely.
if you're just in life, if you're just an active participant, show up. My dad always said, he said, Jeff, if you show up, are an active participant and doing your best every day, you're going to be ahead of 80-90% of the folks that are out there. And I've always just kind of took that into whatever I did, whether that's in the military or you're working in the trades or you're a healthcare provider or whatever it is. That attitude will take you a long, long ways. And there's opportunities abound in a bunch of different stuff. But boy, the military has been good, especially the Coast Guard has, its mission aligns with my core values, what I kind of hold dear, and the opportunity has been great. Worked with some tremendous people, and boy, the experiences traveling the world, working on ships as an engineer in dry docks, fixing stuff, getting my hands dirty. Couldn't ask for more
Mhm.
than that.
Hey, maybe my last question, and I should have prepped you on this so you could think about it, but is there one person or situation or something that comes to mind of a person in the Coast Guard, some dry dock somewhere who just had skills for days, maybe it was just pressure washing, some aspect of craftsmanship that you feel like, man, the Coast Guard really has this down to a science. People don't realize it, and maybe it's one person or maybe it's a whole department somewhere, but have there been is there somewhere you can remember in your career where you feel like you just saw some craftsmanship that was just next level happening?
Yeah, I had yes. I mean, there's many, many to mention, but one specifically that is the industrial. We had an industrial department up there in Ketchikan, Alaska, and it was kind of they were so far out at the end of the logistics chain there that they had to do a lot of stuff kind of on their own. They had their own dry dock there. It was a marine railway, and we would fix smaller boats, the 110 patrol craft. But that whole industrial department there, specifically Dennis Diamond and his staff and stuff there, were just phenomenal. I learned, I mean, they taught me so much about naval engineering, project management, just even managing and motivating people and how to work with
Mm.
folks in the trades. And those guys could do anything. I mean, Dennis Diamond and his crew of planners and pipe fitters, machinists, and welders and painters, and you name it. I mean, we would take boats in there that Nate were broken hard, like would fall off a big 30, 40 foot waves, be bent, twisted, out of alignment.
Mm.
They'd slice those things up like skilled surgeons, stitch them back together again, and they'd be selling out of their brand new. And I would go up there and just be in awe of what they did. And it was a neat combination of not only very skilled tradesmen that knew what they were doing and were professional in their craft and at the top of their game, but the mixture of folks that enjoyed what they're doing, loved coming to work, had great leadership from above, were motivated and empowered to make decisions and do the best that they could do, and then were properly rewarded and taken care of at the end of the
Hmm.
day. It was a really neat ecosystem that they had up there and still have up there to do the job that they need to do. And boy, Dennis Diamond he's one of the absolute most influential. I've had a lot of mentors, but one of the most influential mentors in my life in teaching me how to, work on ships, repair stuff, and then just be a good person and stuff. So he comes to mind certainly as somebody that was very instrumental in my career at an early phase in my career too. And it was a pleasure working with him up there.
Wow. That's exactly what I was hoping for. Well, salute to him, and I'm sure there's probably a big list of people just like you who have been impacted by that shop and the work, and I'm sure the people directly under him could sing his praises all day. That is really cool. Something about being like far away end of the line is especially impressive, where there's nobody you can call for help. There's no like, bigger shop that can roll to town. It's like, no, we're gonna fix this. There's no other option. That I really appreciate. It adds a little more like magic to like,
Mhm.
fixing something that's broken when, you don't have another option.
Yeah, absolutely. Those guys would, I mean, they'd come up with stuff and, you kind of just have the tools you got and the parts you have at hand and be like, well,
Yeah.
this isn't exactly what we do if we could go to, the store or whatever and get what we need. But
Right.
if I modify it like this and do that and kind of change it here, I can make it work. And, they would invent stuff and design things. And I like what I would call tremendous feel in the field level engineering to
Yes.
develop things and create solutions that got the boat fixed on time, on budget, and out there doing the mission safely for those folks that are sailing it.
Amazing. Well, is there anywhere we can link to? Like, do you have a LinkedIn or a Instagram or any account we can link to if somebody really needs to get in touch with you or get you a message about anything that we can direct our audience towards?
But I would say go coastguard.com if folks are interested in joining. I'm a little sensitive to just maybe blasting my personal email out there to
Yeah,
the
smart.
world. But go coastguard.com. I would say if folks are interested in learning about
Yeah,
the Coast Guard, how to join, what opportunities are available to you, is your best resource. And then any Coast Guard recruiting office, if you're interested in joining or learning more about, and then they can help guide you towards the federal service academies and learning about that stuff. And honestly, with the internet now, I mean, you could just Google search or DuckDuckGo anything
yeah,
you want and find out
yeah,
all that stuff. But our recruiters out in the field are really the ones that can help guide you into getting what you need and finding the information that you want for what opportunities might be available to you, in the services and whatnot.
yeah. Beautiful. All right, Jeff. Well, thanks a million for joining us. Thanks for being a part of our Essential Craftsman Academy. We've seen you on Shop Talk a time or two, and I'm sure we'll see you again one of these days. But very much appreciate you taking the time to share your career. And it's funny for a guy like you. You probably think it's just like another Friday or whatever, but it's just this whole world that I don't think about. I don't know anything about, and it's just always. I just really appreciate anytime like you can. It's like we're hearing something from an expert. It's like it's just different hearing it from that person than you know going to even to the website. You like see some nice flashy pictures, you see some of that, but it really means a lot more when you hear it from someone who's been there, done that. So many thanks.
Yeah, and thanks to you guys, Nate. Appreciate the opportunity to be on and very much enjoyed speaking with you today. Thank you.